Nancy brought me, she and Gabriel are kind of keeping me posted of what's going on online so I can share it with you. Here are some of the conversations that are going on. AI application learning's most difficult challenges. We'll have to speak to them about that, won't we? AI and leadership, please consider a question. AI as applied in Vietnam. AI as applied in entrepreneurial context. Enhancing communications using AI, and on and on. You see how long that list is? Those are all conversations that are going on out there. I got a personal email this morning, which I'm sure many of you, I think it came over the listserv, from someone saying, it's 4 a.m., I've just seen David's opening session. He's now put people to do the interviews. The interview format is online. Find yourself a partner. I'm psyched. I don't know if I'm going to get any sleep, you know, on and on and on. So it was lovely for me to hear that people are really tuned in out there. Okay, again, it's my great pleasure to introduce our morning session leaders to you. And of course, I have to start with the old-timer. This is Judy Rogers. She is now head of the new Businesses and Agent of World Benefit project. Is that the right name for it? The Center. The Businesses and Agent of World Benefit Center. I understand from David you now have staff, so you're not having to do this alone anymore. And she's launching for us something that is going to, once again, make AI into a global phenomenon. And it's very, very exciting. So all of you hopefully will be involved in BAWB before you know it. We'll have you involved. Okay, so that's my dear friend Judy. And I'm just very, very thrilled you got out of, where was it, Mexico? Yucatan. No clothes, but Judy got out. Her bags did. She found clothes. She left a whole lot of them behind in Mexico, but she's so welcome. The other two that you see sitting up here are what I call the stars of the second generation. Both of them have been absolutely pivotal in getting AIC going and putting it on the map and keeping us together. Charlotte is our voice from Europe that reminds us constantly about being global. I think we would probably, without her, forget. In fact, when I talked to you about language the other day, it was Charlotte that reminded me that I should do that. And she has been our connection to Europe and a very active participant. And it's a long way to come from Denmark here to be with us. So welcome, and very glad you're up this morning. Mr. Silbert over there with his broken foot. He was just trying to be like Ada, Joe, and me. Fall and break his foot. Tony, you saw at the beginning with Paula, has really put this conference together. But that's not all he's done. He's been he's been leading the race on AIC from the minute he walked in the room. And he has done many, many things. He teaches AI workshops. He uses it in his own practice. And he is very, very committed to AIC and to making it the best it can be. So I don't know what we'd do without him. And it's a great pleasure to welcome the three of them. And I know you're going to have a great morning. We're getting ready to go now. We've done Discovery, right? Everybody remember Discovery? Can you remember back that far? It seems like a week ago at least. And we're now getting ready to launch into the dream phase. And it should be a lot of fun. And we have a wonderful speaker that's going to be with us, Sister Jayanti. You'll meet in a little while. So that'll be a wonderful wrap to the morning. I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to sit down and enjoy it myself, too. Have a good morning.
Thanks, Jane. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Dream. How y'all doing? Great. How many of you went to the CEO roundtable last night? Let me see your hands. Wasn't that amazing? I mean, truly, let's hear it. That was definitely a highlight for me, to hear so many inspiring stories from exemplary and courageous leaders, from 4 extraordinary organizations. There was Green Mountain, University of Kentucky, Roadway Express, and Nutrimental. If you didn't get an opportunity to participate, definitely check it out with our virtual conference. It will be up there shortly. So again, thanks and welcome to Dream. This morning is going to be an opportunity for each of you, individually and collectively, to dream about unbridled possibilities. Possibilities about creating, nurturing, and sustaining extraordinary organizations for business and society. I am multitasking here. Okay, so what are we going to do this morning? We're going to discuss moving from discovery to dream. We're going to explore a dream for our time. We'll discuss what we mean by dreaming. We'll discuss a framework or propose a framework and process for appreciative dreaming. We'll share some 6 principles for appreciative dreaming. And then we'll actually do some dreaming here. Much like we did our discovery work yesterday, we'll engage in some dreaming together. It will be a lot of fun. And then we'll hear from Sister Gianti Kirplani about global cooperation for a better world, an amazing story that is very important work with the Brahma Kumaris. We'll be hearing about that shortly. So just talking about moving from discovery to dream, I really enjoyed Jim and Diana's presentation yesterday and really focusing on the positive core, the power of the positive core, and how it engages, educates, and energizes. And we really want to build on that momentum today. So continuing the engagement of the whole system and creating and expanding the relationships and connectedness. The education, continuing the learning of our individual and collective strengths, experiences, best practices. And also continuing to create that energy. As was mentioned, the upward spirals of positive emotions that are created by tapping into the power of the positive core. We're going to be exploring that today and ask, what would it look like if all of these positive qualities were present every day in our lives and in our work? Additionally, we'll invite you to dream and envision the types of desired results and impact that you would like to see for your extraordinary organization. So again, in moving from discovery to dream, what we ask determines what we discover. What we discover determines how we talk. How we talk determines how we dream together. And how we dream together determines what we design and create together. For me, I've always considered myself a big dreamer. And I'd like to share just one dream of mine. And this is a personal story. And I'd like to share it because what I've found for myself is that all of my most powerful learnings about appreciative inquiry have been very deep and personal experiences. So the story I'd like to share has to do with my wife, Jen, who's sitting out there. Jen, just wave your hand out there. Around 3 or 4 years ago, I had the good fortune to do an appreciative interview on our relationship. At the time, we were just dating. And we inquired into our high point moments of success individually and together, what we value most about ourselves and each other in the relationship, and what our hopes were for the future. That everything we wished for was present, and that we were really living out our dreams together. And I just want to share a little bit of that dream, because it really, positive image, positive action is so powerful. We talked about creating a home together, a home where our friends and family were welcome, really a shelter. We talked about living on the ocean or near water because of the calming power of water, and how important the water, the ocean, has been in our lives. We talked about having children together. We talked about our kids playing with our friends' kids, with our family's kids, and really having a house that is open and welcome. And within a couple short years, we got engaged. We built a house together. We got married in the islands on the ocean. We just recently had a baby 7 months ago. And now we're continuing to follow that image into the future and moving to Rhode Island to live on the ocean and creating and living out our dream together. So I just wanted to share that. It's a very personal story for me, but the power of image, if it's out there, you can't help but move toward it. So just wanted to share that with you.
That's beautiful, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'd like us to look a little bit closer at dreaming, and Judy is going to take us from there.
So, I just have to stand up so I can see you. I don't know if you can appreciate, there's very bright lights up here. So good morning. Even though I got here late, I understand that on Sunday night, David told you about the work at the UN and Kofi Annan and all of that. And so I thought what might be nice for us would be to go back to that, go back to the Sunday night image, and listen to one who is a real master in creating compelling images of the future.
I'm very pleased to welcome so many of you to this Global Compact Summit. This is the largest, highest level gathering of leaders from business, labor, and civil society ever held at the United Nations. Dear friends, we are travelers on a common historic journey. We meet as stakeholders of the Global Compact, which has become by far the world's largest initiative promoting global corporate citizenship. Of all such efforts, the Global Compact alone is based on universal principles that have been accepted by all the world's leaders. What is our ultimate destination? A world held together by strong bonds of community, where today there are only tenuous market transactions. A world in which the gaps between the rich and the poor countries grow narrower, not wider, where globalization provides opportunities for all peoples, not only the few. A world in which economic activities coexist in harmony with and reinforce human rights, decent working conditions, environmental sustainability, and good governance. And a world in which the rule of law triumphs everywhere, and the legitimacy derived from shared norms transforms power into an instrument of human betterment. But should we relax our efforts because these are troubled times? No, no. In such times, our responsibility to lead humanity on a different path is all the greater. For if not us, then who else can we expect to do it? You, the different stakeholders in this initiative, have different viewpoints and interests, but rarely has there been a moment in history when it has been so critical for all of us to protect our common space, building on what unites us. Yet our fragile global order stands in jeopardy today. Securing its future requires your resources and capacities, your advocacy and your leadership. It calls for the unique contribution that only private enterprise can make to the creation of public value at home and abroad. So I ask all of you to work together, business, civil society, labor and governments, and of course, us, and to work with the United Nations to reduce the global risks we all face and to realize the promise of a fairer, more stable world.
So he's so eloquent, isn't he? It's just very touching. Increasingly, appreciative inquiry is being called on as a way to do high-purpose work. And you're probably noticing that. You may be getting calls yourself. And what I notice is a lot of times it's hard for people to make a link between a very lofty message like this one and what's going on for them on Monday morning. So what I'd like you to do is reflect for a minute on the clear image of the future that Kofi Annan offered in this talk. And so if you'll remember, he said, what is our ultimate destination? A world held together by strong bonds of community, where the gap between the rich and the poor grows narrower, not wider, where globalization provides opportunities for all people. So what I'd like you to do is take a minute and think of that as it applies locally. So think of either your community, your organization, a system with which you're consulting, and look for the local link for that. Take just a minute, make a couple of notes to yourself, and then turn to someone next to you and see if between you can't ground that in some direct experience that you're having. Church, community, town, organization, family, somewhere. Take the ideal that's in the Secretary General's talk and see if you can ground it in the experience you're having. Okay? We'll take just a minute. Okay, so it would be helpful, I think, for all of us to hear just a little bit of how you're making those links locally, for local relevance, etc. So, from anyone. Who had something interesting that came up here? And then we'll need mics right up here. And this is a bit of an obstacle course, the way these chairs are set up. And when you stand, would you just say who you are, so we get a sense of who you are and where you're from?
I am Larissa Marchak. I'm from Brazil. And we had a good conversation, really very nice. I said that what I saw was something that I could do was to really put my energy on trying to make other people see that if the schools would just help children learn how to think instead of putting information inside of their heads, then I think it would make a change. And what she said was, if everybody could just ask a very good question to anybody every day, it would make a change.
Over here.
I'm Annie Payton from Vermont. Vermont has just opened up an agricultural product connection with Cuba. We're selling heifers and dry milk. And I have several very good contacts with commissioners in state government of the client system, which to me opened up a huge door. Thank you, Judy. And it says to me that I can invite those commissioners to figure out, are there ways that we in the state of Vermont, we're already not on the Bush favorite list, we can ride that tide, get ahead of that wave, that I might be able to bring those commissioners together to see if there are ways that we can float with that agricultural product connection to Cuba.
Very nice.
And in fact bring some of our skills and knowledge into parks and forestry and agricultural and buildings in Cuba. So thank you, Judy.
Very, very
I started
nice.
with corporate
Nice, Ann.
connections and
That's
did
beautiful.
government.
And there's one over here, and he's got a mic. Does anyone over here need a mic?
Good morning to everybody. I'm Shiranta from Sri Lanka. Would like to share the dream level at 2 levels of my life. One is in my family life. I'm married, and I do have an appreciative process that I do with my wife almost every 3 months, and within which we try to develop a family that is open to many others, that extends to many friends who needs listening, who feel comfortable to talk to us, and with whom we feel comfortable to talk to. So this circle of friends seems to be getting bigger and bigger. This is one dream. And the other one is where I'm working as, the organization is Consortium of Humanitarian Agencies. As an organization, we dream of a Sri Lanka of peaceful island. So this is a dream at 2 levels that I'm looking at and working at. Thanks.
Beautiful. You know, I think it's really important for all of us to help people make those big ideas relevant. And it's, otherwise they tend to float along the top. We look at the Secretary General and say, wow, isn't he wonderful? But we don't bring it home. And the beauty of appreciative inquiry is that it's a way to do that. You know, we have such a good method to bring those big ideas home and make them very relevant. So clearly, you're already there. I knew you were. So thank you for that. I think that's very inspirational. And so I want to do a little segue here. And let me pause. Is the mayor here yet? We've been told the mayor is coming to give us some awards. So if we interrupt things suddenly, you'll know that's why. All right?
It's a proclamation.
A proclamation. All right, so we'll just stop at that point and proclaim together. Okay. So I want to talk with you a little bit about dream, but for a minute I want to depart from kind of the strict idea of the second D. And instead I want to think about what does it mean to give people an image of the future that they want. And when I was reflecting on this, I was thinking about, in the 1980s, I was producing a bunch of television programs with Tom Peters. And we did one called The Leadership Alliance, which featured 4 leaders, and 2 of them have really stuck in my mind. All of them were wonderful, but 2 of them, in my mind, have a lot to do with this thing we're talking about around dreaming. One of them was a woman named Pat Kerrigan, who was she was really a psychologist. She wasn't even a manufacturing person, but she'd been brought in by General Motors to do a plant turnaround in Detroit. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with this story or with Pat Kerrigan. Anyone know this story? So a few of you. So Pat, she was brought in, and basically what she was told is, we intend to shut this plant down. I mean, have a go at it if you'd like, but the reality is we're probably going to shut this down, and your job will probably be that transitional person to kind of bring it to a close. So Pat, being who she was, decided that she was going to try to do everything in her power to not have to lay all those people off. So the first thing she did was she opened her door, which sounds trivial, but her predecessor had always had a closed door. So she opened her door. The second thing she did was she turned the executive dining room into a training room, which, and I'm making points here about the images of the future she was putting in front of people. We don't need an executive dining room here, she said. We need a training room. So she made that change. The next thing she did was she walked all the way through the plant. She walked up to every person in the plant. She put her hand out and she said, I'm Pat Kerrigan. You think we can make a go of it here? And then finally, because relationships with the union were so delicate, she made a commitment that she would never address the company unless she were addressing it with Jack White, the union director, with her. And she kept that commitment. If he wasn't in town, she didn't speak to the company. And slowly, she began to turn things around. And she made it an enormous success, which is why Tom Peters picked it up and we shot the story there. Now, you know, strictly speaking, that's not writing a dream statement or drawing a picture or all of those things that we do to elicit that from our people. But that's what we're talking about. Because the more people can envision where they're going and the more concrete those images, the more it compels people forward. And that's what we're talking about. Now, there was a second person that we featured in this film. He was a school principal, and I believe he was in Vermont. And his name was Dennis Litke. Is that a Vermont guy? And from what I remember about Dennis Litke, and those who know can correct me if I've got this wrong, he was a good school administrator. He was a pretty outstanding guy. And this school in rural Vermont was having trouble. They were having trouble getting enough kids through the system with success, getting them on to college. And so they asked Dennis Litke if he would come and be their, I think he was the principal of the middle and high school. So he came in, and you've all seen schools like this. You know, it was your basic kind of dreary, little bit too old, not quite money to fix it up, solid school, performing at a below average level. So Dennis Litke came in, and the first act he did was he went to the local gas station, filling station, where there was a high school dropout working who was also an artist. And he asked him if he would come back to the school and do a mural in the cafeteria. And as the boy showed up and he began to work and he began to draw this beautiful image, all kinds of things started to happen. Because the students saw, for one thing, the door was open. It wasn't just that when you left, you were gone. They saw this beautiful image beginning to be painted on the wall, and it began to move. And that was the first of many acts that he did. So, again, you know, what are the visible things we can do to put the future out in front of us? And then the third thing I was thinking about was Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, which you're hearing a lot about this week. But I'm thinking about when we were talking about doing a summit on growth, and we were struggling with how to articulate the task. And the choices were to say we want phenomenal, sustainable growth so that we can increase our world benefit, or are we increasing our world benefit so that we can get phenomenal, sustainable growth? Now, this seems trivial, but to the people in the conversation, it was not trivial, because to them, it was about what are we doing? Are we paying attention to the hardcore business so that if we succeed, we can help the world? Or are we setting out with the intention of bringing benefit to the world, and in order to make that possible, we're going to run a great business? And the conversations around that were very rich. And ultimately, they decided that we want to increase our world benefit for phenomenal, sustainable growth. And that's the kind of vision right out of the gate that began to move everything in that direction. I'm going to turn this over to Charlotte Dalsgaard, and she's going to take us forward with the dream. So.
Yeah. So, will you please? Yeah, let us look a little bit closer on dream. Dream is a time for imagining. To illustrate the meaning of dream, I would like to tell you a story from a Danish company, Oticon. Oticon is the second largest hearing instrument developing and manufacturing company in the world. The hearing instrument, Oticon Synchron, is today known as the most technically advanced hearing instrument worldwide. And it's the first instrument based on artificial intelligence. So this story tells us about an important tipping point in the development process of Oticon Synchro. 2 years ago, Oticon faced a severe internia in the development strategy. The development of their next product, the next generation product, went into huge trouble and had a huge delay. So they faced a situation where they could lose a large market share. So what they really needed was a new product which could be released for sale in spring 2004. People in the development department, they took up this channel and tried to be creative and find a way to meet it. But in a little while, they got stuck and they had created an image of time was running out. Yeah, there it is. When the heads of the development department contacted us, they wanted to create a window of opportunities. They wanted to help people to lift up their creative minds and to develop a more collaborative and innovative culture in the development department. Today, Otakon explains how they got their breakthrough when they based their kick-off on AI. They described that what really matters was when they worked with the images of the future. After the discovering process about the best development experience, the core in successful development and the hopes for the future, they collectively started to imagine. They imagined their future practice as if they were able to make stones fly. They unfolded this image and put it into words. The essence of this was condensed into 5 simple rules of how to make stones fly. And I will just read them so you can get them. The first rule: a fairly good fast decision is better than a perfect late one. And rule number 2: a wrong fast decision must be corrected by a fast one, a new fast one. And number 3, each project member must make decision of the behalf of the project every day. Rule number 4, concentrate on the 90% of the solution that makes a difference for the end user and leave the rest out. And rule number 5, fortune favors the brave. So think, be, and act positive. Today, the management states that the collective imagining of the flying stones changed the developers' way of thinking. They were now able to see the possible in the impossible. It widened their productive fantasy, the ingenium, which helped them to connect diverse and separate elements and see the new interrelationships. And that the metaphor expanded their creative language. They describe this realization as a breathtaking experience which gave them a coordinated collective imagination which made it possible to the developers possible to develop the productive fantasy ingenium and to go into the nitty-gritty of the development process and then meet the deadline. So can I have the next slides, please? Dreaming is, as we can learn from the Otakon story, very practical in the sense that it is grounded in our positive past. It is creative, seeking out new possibilities. It is important because it allows us to push the creative edges of possibility around the potential of the organization. If we reflect on the Otakon story, they base their imaging of all their ideas and topic discovery in the discovery phase. They co-created an image and they put words to the image. During the process, they moved from a guiding image about running out of time, not being able to do it, over to a positive image of the future, about being able to do the impossible. An image which guides their action into success, a success which culminates this summer by an worldwide positive feedback from their customers. So now I will turn into, no, I will not turn into, I will turn to. I will turn to 6 principles of appreciative dreaming. So, principle number 1. Remember, the future is within us. That means that images of the future guide present-day action and achievements. A human system move in the direction of their image of the future. The more positive and hopeful the image of the future, the more positive the present-day action. Culture constructs react within the framework and attitudes of our culture. It is the way we see the world, and it is largely invisible for us. When we are working with stories and images, we must remain hyper-alert to the way that our culture is blinding us to the possibilities in the culture of others. One of the tasks in AI is to transform cultures, to create generative environments in which new cultures can be created. Cultures that allows for more ideas, novelty, innovation, progress, and about all constructive action. Patterns of organizational images must be interpreted from their historical and contextual environment. So be aware of the culture you swim in, and remember the historical and cultural context of the images you choose. The 4th principle, create a language of hopes and possibilities. The language determines the way we feel, think, and participate in social relations. And it influences our image of how life should be and what can be achieved. And here I want to quote one of my favorite articles by Jim Dudema about vocabulary of hope. Vocabularies of hope provide the linguistic resources necessary to build new social architectures from transformative human organizing and action. Enhance positive emotions. Positive emotional states are more conducive to dreaming, and positive images of the future produce positive emotional states. As many of us have said, you have the opportunity to visit Barbara Fredrickson's firefight chat this evening to unfold this principle. And lastly, the sixth principle, be concrete. Dreaming is very concrete. It's not just about blue sky, but also about power, resource priorities, and pace gains. As Kuberreiter says it, too often we skirt these tougher issues, like the sharing and distribution of resources or images of ideal power relations. And if and when we do that, then AI runs the risk of being co-opted and tremendously watered down as an approach to organizational reconstruction.
This business about clear, positive images of the future, the more compelling the image before us, the more committed we are to action. And I'm going to digress just a tad off of that. I think many of you are aware by now that appreciative inquiry is moving in close proximity to the positive psychology movement. Are most of you watching this process? So you've got Marty Seligman's books, Authentic Happiness, and his older one, Learned Optimism. You've got Barb Fredrickson, who we're talking about a lot because we're going to have her with us tonight, and we've been watching her research a lot. And there's another researcher who I've been watching for a while, and that's a man at the University of Virginia named John Haidt. And I became interested in John's work because I work with media, and John was using media a lot in his research. And while Barb was looking at joy, contentment, and interest, John Haidt was looking at gratitude, admiration, awe, and an emotion that he was calling elevation. And this emotion of elevation was very interesting to him. He said, we know this emotion because our throats tighten up a little bit, and our heart opens up, and our eyes get a little moist. And he said, he was describing what he did. And what he did was he took his subjects, and half of them he had watch a video of Mother Teresa ministering to the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. And the other half he had watch America's Funniest Home Videos. And he was watching what happened to them. And he said the ones who were watching America's Funniest Home Videos had sort of an inward turning chuckle, you know, kind of light laughing, but it sort of was turning inward. But the ones who were watching Mother Teresa manifested this emotion that he began to describe as elevation. And he said not only did they have those biological responses, but they had this additional kind of energy, a lot more kind of creativity and resourcefulness. But most interesting, when he interviewed them, they reported that they wanted to affiliate with people like her. They wanted to go be with people like this. And then when he did a follow-up visit with them, many of them had actually gone out and begun to do things in society that were beneficial. So this business about what's the impact of putting this positive image out in front of people it's not trivial because it actually has to do with the amount of energy that becomes available and the kind of work they're available to do. So it's very powerful. And it's easy with the dream phase, I think, if you don't understand it, to kind of write it off as, well, I've done that visualization. That's always nice, kind of an icebreaker. It's really not about that at all. You know, it's really about locating the kind of capacity to do a lot more work. And that's why it's really important that we get good at it and that we get clear at it and all the things that Charlotte talked about in terms of concreteness, etc. So at this point, I think we're going to move into some action. I'm going to turn it over to Tony.
You guys ready to do some dreaming? Yes? Yes. Me too. I'm going to ask you to each join in with me, and if I could have the house lights dim just a bit. It's hard to tell if they're actually dimming being under these lights. They're not? If we get the house lights dimmed? Visualize dimness.
That's good.
Very concrete. Thanks, Steph. It's working. Wow, that worked. Thanks, Steph. Okay, everyone. Get comfortable in your seat. Take a deep breath. Get comfortable in your seat. Close your eyes if you like. Relax. Rest your toes, your feet, your legs. Rest your arms, your hands, your shoulders. Now relax your neck, your head, and your eyes. Your body feels weightless, and you feel yourself rising slowly from your seat. It's 2015, and many small and large changes have occurred. The world has changed in ways you would most like to see it change. For yourself, for your loved ones, for the economy, nature, business, communities, and the people around the world. Extraordinary organizations are flourishing around the world. In fact, your organization is being recognized at the 10th International Conference on Appreciative Inquiry. There are thousands of people in the room and thousands more participating virtually. Dignitaries around the world have gathered to celebrate your organization's success. Your organization has discovered new ways to succeed, understanding fully the deceptively simple concept of doing well and doing good. As you relax, imagine that you are rising up and observing things going on below. From your perspective, you notice everything that is going on around you. You notice the noise of the conversation. What are they saying? As you wander around, you noticed all that you hope for is happening. What is happening? What are the people doing? How are you feeling about what is happening? People have stopped you to congratulate you on your award. What are they saying? When you're ready, open your eyes and return to the room at your own speed. Jot down a few notes of what you see happening that's new, that's different, that's better. So jot down a few notes of what you see that's happening, that's new, different, and better.
So, here's the plan. I'm going to say almost nothing. I'm going to hand you the mic. You'll put your presentation up. You'll give us the explanation about your presentation and your statement, all right? And then go off the other side, all right?
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it. We have the appreciative inquirer. Extra, extra.
Oh! I'll take a copy of that, please. Oh,
50 cents,
awesome.
please. Some things never change.
I love the Appreciative Inquirer. Oh, this is the international edition. Excellent. You know, I'm just so excited that they had that summit, you know, the one in 2005, Media as Agent for World Benefit. That was just some awesome things came out of that. Oh, I think I want the section on extraordinary community events. Where's that? Ah, here's a story. Maybe you can help me here. Thank you. Oh, imagine the City of Ottawa. The City of Ottawa has engaged the community again. On their 50th round of summits, the community in the Ottawa area dream, have inspiring conversations, build relationships, and create enormous momentum for change. Building on the successes of the last 10 years, the City of Ottawa has sparked leadership at the community level, local schools, communities, churches. How inspiring. Anybody else want a section of the newspaper?
Yeah, can I take the section on sustainable environment? Oh, now this is pretty interesting. A mining company makes a positive contribution to the environment.
Awesome.
Fairmont Minerals creates a legacy of positive environmental impact by creating wetlands, increasing biodiversity, and including the community in planning. They've also shared their technology with their competition to further the momentum of sustainable development. Oh, hey.
You got something in there about world community? See, seems like there's, oh yeah, here it is. International Cooperative feeds the world as a result of a conference of the UN in 2004. Man, that was a long time ago. CEOs banded together to develop food supplies and distribution in every country of the world, employing millions and increasing the economies of health of the peoples of the world.
That's billions.
That's billions. You're right. You're right.
I'd like to see the section on great cities. In Northeast Ohio, the greater Cleveland area is transformed. In interviews with children and families in Cleveland, described 10 years ago as having the highest U.S. urban poverty rate, young people and their parents are filled with excitement and hope about their friendly neighborhoods, their inspiring jobs, their great schools, and the dreams of the future which they have. People celebrate the deep connectedness and partnership they feel with people throughout the region.
This is a pretty good paper.
And here's our dream. Each of us is being the best we can be. Each family, each community, each nation. The world is being the best it can be. We live in constant awareness that we are all connected. A living web of life. Thank you.
Appreciative inquiry is out there everywhere, and so let's all go together and go find it.